Dave and Tanner have made for the NBA playoffs this year, 2014. The bracket's set, and we're looking for an exciting playoff. So we're going to take it to them for their picks, and then I will be the deciding factor. So we'll take it to them, Dave and Tanner.
All right. Take us away, Dave.
Here we go. Our first matchup, we have the Spurs getting the #1 seed in the West against the Mavericks, who got the 8th seed in that overtime game.
That overtime
against
loss
the Grizzlies last night.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we can all pretty much agree that the Spurs are going to take this one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
the Spurs are the better team. They've been there more than the Mavericks. I mean, the Mavericks have been, they've been good in the past, but the Spurs have proven themselves this year, and they've got the age and they've got the talent to do it. So definitely the Spurs.
Next up, we have the Rockets and the Trailblazers, which is one that we're going to disagree on because I love the Trailblazers, of course.
Tell us why the Trailblazers are going to win.
They're doing really well. They got LaMarcus Aldridge back, and they've won 9 out of their last 10. And really, the only reason they dropped to that 5th seed is because he had some health issues. So I've got the Trailblazers beating the Rockets.
All right, I think the Rockets are going to take it. The Rockets have been playing really great this year. Dwight Howard's been doing awesome, along with James Harden. James Harden's made his case this year. He's been doing really well, and then all their young guys. Jeremy Lin's been doing fine. Parsons been doing fine. So I think the Rockets are going to take it. I just think that their energy and their style of play is just going to outlast the Blazers in a 7-game series.
All right. So that leaves a 1-1 tie. So we're going to take it over to Scott for the tiebreaker.
I think what both you guys said are right. The Blazers have been a really big surprise team this year. I also think that Tanner said all of the really good players on the Rockets and impact players that they have. I think the biggest impact player for this series is going to be Patrick Beverley and his defense on Damian Lillard. I think Patrick Beverley is a huge pest. Damian Lillard's come out and said how much he doesn't like him. I think the Rockets move on in this one.
All right, so there we have it. We have the Rockets beating the Trailblazers in the first round.
Little best 2 out of 3 here on the show.
I think it'll be a good series regardless.
It'll be a good series. It'll definitely be exciting.
Next up, #2 seed Thunder against the Grizzlies. We can agree that the Thunder will at least make it past the first round.
Yeah, the Thunder's definitely the more talented team there. And then Kevin Durant, if he takes what he's been doing in the regular season in the postseason, they're going to do just fine.
All right, now bringing it down to the last game of the first round. Clippers versus Warriors. This is, I think, will be the best series as far as the first round goes, especially because the West is so deep.
Yeah.
The Warriors have a great shot at beating the Clippers, but I'm going to go ahead and say Clippers, just because I think they're having a great season. I think they're one of the best teams in the league for sure.
See, I'm going to disagree and say the Warriors. Warriors are super young. Both teams have been playing really well. This could honestly go either way in my head. I just think over the years watching the Warriors in the playoffs, they really come alive in the playoffs, and the city really rallies around behind them. And I just think they're going to have the end. Steph Curry always does well in the postseason as well, but I think that they're just going to rally around all the excitement there in Oakland. I think the Warriors are going to best the Clippers in 7. So since we're tied up, we're going to take it over to Scott one more time.
This is probably the most exciting first round matchup we're going to see in this Western Conference. I think the difference in this series is going to be Andrew Bogut not going to be playing, and I think that David Lee won't be able to play good enough defense on Blake Griffin, and DeAndre Jordan also without Bogut is going to be able to thrive. So I think the Clippers are going to move on.
All right, so it's decided the Clippers beating the Warriors in the first round. Moving back up, we have the Spurs and the Rockets, which is going to be interesting, I think, because the Rockets swept the Spurs in the season series, but then again, the Spurs are the best team in the league, record-wise. So I think the Spurs are going to pull it out. I think they're going to step it up. I don't think the season series necessarily matters that much. I think the Spurs are the better team here.
Well, I disagree. I think the season series also kind of proves some stuff. I don't think it's just a fluke that the Rockets beat the Spurs all 4 times that they played. And the Rockets are just kind of my wild card here for me. I think that they've proven that they have the ability to beat the Spurs. And I think they could be that underdog team to take out the heavily favored Spurs. So I'm going to go with the Rockets. We'll take it back over to Scott for the tie break.
Warriors' pesky defense. And also, I think he'll be able to take advantage of Jeremy Lin. So I've got the Spurs as well.
Alrighty.
Spurs it is.
Spurs it is.
I think that's the right choice.
Age is but a number, Dave.
Then that brings us to the Thunder and the Clippers, which again I think is going to be an amazing matchup.
If it gets to there, that'll be really, really fun to watch.
I have a feeling. I mean, I love the Spurs, but I have a feeling this is going to decide who makes it to the finals. Some may disagree, and I'm going to go with the Thunder.
I'm going to agree with you on the Thunder.
They have the home court advantage, and they just beat them at the end of the year. And Kevin Durant didn't even play that well.
I know, and he's coming off an amazing regular season. He's still finishing off his regular season really well. So I think he's the X factor in that one. Blake Griffin's been awesome, but I think Kevin Durant's coming there. So. And
I think it'll go to 7 games. I'm just gonna make that prediction because that is gonna be a great series. So now in the Western Conference Finals, we have the Spurs and the Thunder. You know what? I'm gonna say Spurs. Just. I think it's there. I mean, they came so close last year. They had the best record in the league. I think they're gonna step it up. I think they're gonna make it.
I agree with you. I think if it gets to this point, I mean, the Thunder have been to the finals once before, lost in 5. Kind of looked to me like they weren't really, ready for that, which they weren't. That was their first time ever. You got, you give that to them. A lot of those players. And the Spurs, it seems like the Spurs are there year after year after year after year, and they're only getting better. So I think. The Spurs, with their maturity and with their experience with Coach Popovich, will outlast the Thunder. So I think they make it to the finals.
Have won the last 8 out of the 10 matchups with the Spurs, and they swept the Spurs this year too. So I think if it comes down to that, that's just my personal opinion. I think the Thunder will win that if they end up. But I think the Clippers, if the Clippers get there, I think the Spurs will win and get into the finals. But I think if the Thunder get there, that the Thunder will get to the finals.
2 out of 3 says Spurs, so we go with the Spurs.
Yeah. We'll go with the Spurs.
That's how life works.
All right, so Spurs in the NBA Finals is what we have.
Let's move on over to the East.
Right over here.
Let's start with Pacers-Hawks. Pacers.
Yep.
Do we even have to pick?
The Hawks did well against the Pacers in the season, but Pacers... you gotta go with the Pacers. First seed in the East. So.
Okay. So moving on from that, we'll go Bulls Wizards. What's your take on that?
I'm gonna say Bulls.
Okay.
I mean the Wizards are good, but the Bulls are such a playoff team with such a good coach.
I think I'm gonna go with the Wizards, just because I think. I just think the energy there is better than what the Bulls have, because the Bulls have faced so much adversity this season. I think the Wizards are just going to wear them down in the first round, so I'm going to go with the Wizards.
The Wizards, John Wall creates the most corner threes in the game to Trevor Ariza, usually in the corner. But that's basically their offense, is John Wall isolation. And the Bulls are the best defensive team in the NBA. And I think that DJ Augustine, with how he's kind of come out into a scoring niche this year, I think the Bulls will get the series. I think the Wizards are just a little bit too young at this point. So I'll take it to the Bulls.
All right, valid point for the Bulls. All right, quickly taking it down to the Heat Bobcats. I'm going to go Heat. Two-time defending champs.
There's no one who's going to go with the Bobcats there, unless it's Michael Jordan.
Okay, take it down to Raptors Nets. What's your take?
This is a 3 versus 6 seed, but I do think the Nets are the better team here.
Okay, I'm gonna go Raptors. I think what they're doing is awesome. I think they've got the talent to best the Nets. Definitely a younger team, and this is kind of their first. They're starting to get in, to the playoff mix and stuff. So I think they're gonna be super, super hungry. I just think they're gonna outlast them. So we'll take it over to Scott to decide.
I think the difference in this series is between Paul Pierce and Joe Johnson versus DeMar DeRozan. DeMar DeRozan's been really good this year, but I think that the experience there is just something that the Nets have, and I think the Nets move on.
All right, so we got the Nets So let's take it back up to Pacers Bulls. I'm gonna go with the Pacers right off the top.
I'm gonna go with the Pacers too. It's really, they both have great defense, but I think Pacers can score better, and which is saying something because the Pacers can't score, but
they're the better team. Heat versus Nets. I'm gonna go with the Heat. I think they're the better team. Yes, the Nets did beat them all 4 games in the regular season, but I think the Heat have, and if Wade's back and healthy and he's playing well, you know, it's not going to be healthy, but if he's playing well, I think they have the X factor there. If it comes down to some close games, I think the Heat have the players to pull it out, especially with, like, you know, Ray Allen, what we saw last year in the finals. Plus, they're the 2-time defending champions. They know what it takes, so I'm going to go with the Heat.
I'm going to have to go with the Nets. They swept them in the season series, and they, for some reason, do really well against the Heat, and I think they match up against them really well. So I'm going to go with the Nets.
All right, let's throw it over to Scott.
I feel like the difference in this series is going to be urgency. I feel like the Heat all year long have had problems with their defense and their urgency to play defense, and I think that this winding down with Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett, the Nets know that their window's closing, and I also think that in past series with the Celtics and Heat, when Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett have been there, they've been the ones that have been able to take it to 7 games versus LeBron James. And they've been usually the only ones that have been able to do this. And I think this Nets team this year has a ton more talent than past Celtics teams with Darren Williams and Joe Johnson. And I think that'll be the difference in this series. Also, the 4-0 regular season series is a major factor, I think, as well. So I think the Nets are going to move on in this one and take off the defending champions.
Okay, so we have the Heat moving on, right?
Nope. Have the Nets, as much as you hate it.
All right, so here we got Pacers Nets. You take it off. What do you think?
You know, it's all about matchups, and although the Nets match up really well against the Heat, they don't match up very well against the Pacers, who will have home court advantage. So I'm going to go with Pacers.
I'm going to go with the Pacers as well for all of the reasons you just said.
Fair enough. All right, so here we have
let's take it into the middle.
We have the Spurs and the Pacers in the finals. And I'm gonna go with the Spurs.
Okay.
Just flat out, I think they'll be able to beat. They'll have home court advantage, and I think they're the better team.
And I think the Spurs are an even better team than their team last year in the finals. And in the finals last year, I think LeBron was the difference in that series. And I don't see anyone on the Pacers. I mean, Paul George great, Hibbert's great, but I don't see that affecting the Spurs like it did last year. Right. So I'm gonna have to give it to the Spurs in a landslide, I think.
Okay. Oh, in a landslide. All right.
And we'll just take it to Scott just to see what he thinks, just because it's the finals.
I think the Spurs are they're the best team this year. They have the best record by far. I don't think you can choose any other team over them. They do have really big problems though with the matchups in the Western Conference. I think overcoming the Rockets and the Thunder will be their biggest 2 problems. But if they can do that, I think they can beat any team out of the East. And especially if they match up against the Heat, if the Heat do get there, I think there's a little bit of revenge factor from that Game 6. So I think the Spurs are going to be the NBA champions as well. So that's about all we have right now for the NBA playoffs. We're going to take it back to our individual predictions after a commercial break. So we will be back. we're taking it back to Dave, I guess, for his individual predictions of this playoff. So let's move it on right over to Dave.
All right, hey there. If you're ready to see a perfect bracket, stay tuned because I'm about to put it up. Spurs and Mavericks in the first round right here. I'm going to go with the Spurs. I think that's a very safe prediction. Here's where it may go different. I am a Trailblazers fan. I'm a diehard Trailblazers fan, and I think they are going to pull it out against the Rockets, despite not having home court advantage. And then Thunder, I'm a Thunder fan as well, not a bandwagon. The Spurs and the Thunder are probably my two favorite teams, so I'm going to have to go with the Thunder. The Clippers and the Warriors. Warriors, I think, are a great team. I think that they have a chance to do very well in the playoffs, but I think the Clippers are just too good for them. So that's my first round in the West. Let me grab some more of these logos here. I'm gonna go with the Spurs against the Trailblazers. Tend to do pretty well against the Trailblazers. I mean, the Trailblazers do well against the Spurs, but I think they need more experience. They're a young team, and the Spurs have plenty of experience. The Thunder against the Clippers. I am going to have to go with the Thunder, although I think the Clippers could very well beat them. I think it's Kevin Durant's year. I think he's going to step it up in the playoffs and bring them very far into the playoffs. So that leads us to the Spurs and the Thunder. The Thunder do very well against the Spurs. They don't have that home court advantage, but I think they're going to pull it out. Kawhi Leonard will do a very good job defending Kevin Durant, but I think the Thunder have more young talent, and I think in a 7-game series they'll be able to pull it out. And that leads me over to the East. Pacers, Bulls, Heat, and Nets. So I think the East is pretty easy just because there's not very many deep teams. So I think the Pacers are going to win it easy against the Hawks. The Bulls are a playoff team, and I think they're going to pull it out against the Wizards. The Heat are the Heat. And the Nets are an experienced team that have been doing really well lately, so I'm going to go with the Nets over the Raptors. And that leads me to the second round. The Nets against the Heat. This is one where there's a lot of controversy. The Nets swept the Heat in the regular season, and they seem to do really well against the Heat. So I'm going to call an upset here. Nets over the Heat. And then Pacers over the Bulls. And that leads me to the Eastern Conference Finals. The Nets and the Pacers, I think the Pacers will pull it out. They don't tend to do very well against the Pacers, and I think it's their year. And that takes me to the NBA Finals, where I'm just going to go with the Thunder because I'm a Thunder fan, and Kevin Durant's going to win his first championship. So that's it for my bracket.
All right. Well, I really like the Spurs in this playoffs. Of course, they're going to beat the Mavericks, but I'm not really sure about the Rockets versus the Trailblazers because the Rockets have been on fire this year with James Harden and Dwight Howard. So that's kind of a 50-50 thing, but I like the Rockets in that one. And then the Thunder and Grizzlies, of course, I'd like the Thunder. And the Clippers and Warriors, without Andrew Bogut, the Warriors are really going to struggle. So Dave picked Clippers, and I hate to say it, but I think the Clippers are going to beat the Warriors. Over on the other side, the Pacers and the Hawks, that could actually be a really close matchup because the Pacers have been struggling at the end of the season this year, and they also lost by 30 points at home to the Hawks just a couple weeks ago. So that could be a really close series, but I have the Pacers going through that just like Dave did. And then the Bulls and the Wizards, I think the Wizards are too young. This is a good step for them to make the playoffs. I think the Bulls are going to get that one. The Heat and the Bobcats, I like the Heat, of course. The Bobcats are kind of a on-the-rise team without Jefferson, but I think LeBron's just going to take over in that series. And then Raptors and Nets, that's kind of a close matchup there, but Dave picked the Nets, but I like the Raptors in that one. Other than that, Dave's bracket's pretty good. Take it to Tanner.
Shout out to the Wasatch tennis team. That's why I'm wearing this today. Got the match going today. Okay, so I'm going to start in the East as well. The West. This is the West side. And so we got the Spurs and the Mavericks, the 1 and the 8. So I'm going to go with the Spurs, obviously. It's a clear choice. No explanation needed. They're the better team by far there. Coming down to the Rockets and the Trailblazers. Like I said before, I think the Rockets are the better team. I just think they'll outlast them. I think they've got more talent, and I think they're more ready to play, if that's even a thing. So I think the Rockets win that. Cool. Thunder and Grizzlies. The Thunder are the better team there. Definitely, they've got more talent, and they've got Kevin Durant, which is a huge plus to any team right now. So I'm going to go with the Thunder. And the Clippers and the Warriors. This is a fun one for me. I think the Warriors are going to beat the Clippers here. The Clippers are the favorites, obviously, but like I said, the Warriors, they got a really good postseason presence. Their fans are really awesome, and they've got a good team. Steph Curry tends to do well in the postseason as well. So I just have the Warriors winning that game. All right. Let's see here. So Spurs and Rockets. I'm going to go with the Rockets because they're younger and I think they're hungry, which the Spurs are as well. But I just think the Rockets have what it takes to beat them. They beat them all 4 meetings in the regular season, and I think they're just going to carry that with them into the playoffs. They know that they can beat the Spurs, and the Spurs know that they can be beat by them, so I think mentally that gives them the edge as well. So I'm going to go with the Rockets. And that takes us back down to Thunder and Golden State. As much as I like Golden State and what they're doing over there, I think the Thunder, when it comes down to it, are just a better basketball team. There's no way around it. And Kevin Durant, I think, is going to give them some major issues on the Thunder's offensive end. I think the Warriors will have a really hard time containing them in a 7-game series. So I'm going to have the Thunder outlasting there. All right. So between the Rockets and the Thunder here, I just think the Rockets are going to continue what they've been doing through the whole postseason. I think it'll be fun to see them get there personally, and I think they've got what it takes to beat the Thunder. They've got the players there. I think they can upset Durant a little bit. I think they've got what it takes on the defensive end. So I'm going to go with the Rockets in the finals. All right. So quickly, I'm going to come over here and make my Eastern picks. Let's see what I got here. My first round picks over here. Where's my Raptors logo? Apparently we don't have one. Anyway, okay, I'll go with this to start off. So Atlanta and the Pacers in the first round of the East. The 8 seed hardly ever beats the 1 seed, so I'm going to give it to them. They're the better team, hands down. The Hawks have some major issues with their roster. They need to be changing that next season. Coming down to the Bulls and the Wizards. The Bulls have been they've had so much go wrong for them this season, but they've really bounced back. They've played really, really well this season. Joakim Noah's been awesome for them. But I think the Wizards just have what it takes to beat them. I think they've got more energy. I think they've got more talent. And in a 7-game series, I think they have the upper hand there. So I'm going to go with the Wizards. Heat, Bobcats. Bobcats have notoriously been the worst team and the worst managed team in the NBA, and they're matched up against what has been over the years the best team in the NBA. So I think this is a no-brainer to go with the Heat there. They're obviously more talented, and they know what they're doing in the postseason. So I'm going to give it to the Heat. Taking it down to the Nets and the Raptors at the bottom here. I like the Nets. I like the way they play, and I think they've got what it takes to upset a lot of these teams here, but I think the Raptors, kind of along the same lines as the Rockets, I think they're young and they're hungry, and this is their first time, kind of in the mix where they can do some damage, and I think they're going to upset the Nets. But I've got no logo for them, so I'll put the Raptor claw there. So moving on up here, Pacers and Wizards. I just think the Pacers are by far the better team than the Wizards, and they outsize them as well. And they're just more experienced, and they've got more talent. So I'm going to go with the Pacers hands down in that series. Moving on down to the Heat and the Raptors. Again, experience is a huge thing, and then LeBron James is a giant X factor for the whole thing. So definitely have the Heat getting past the Raptors, even though I think the Raptors could give them some trouble. Too bad I got to have them getting beat now. So that brings us to Pacers Heat, which, if it gets to this, will be my favorite one to watch because I think these teams match up so well against each other. It's always a battle every time they play. They split in the regular season. So it's going to be really, really fun to watch. But when it comes down to it, they're both great teams. But I see if the Heat get in a desperate situation, I think they've got the players that can pull them out. And I think they got the X factor with LeBron for sure. And I think we saw it last year and the year before that as well. I don't think the Pacers have what it takes to beat the Heat in close games. I think they need to get up and win. And so I'm going to give it to the Heat because I think they've got the edge. So that takes us to the Heat and the Rockets. And I think as much as I like the Rockets and I like what they're doing, I think the Heat, with their experience and with their players that are able to bring them down, will end up outlasting any team. So I think the Heat take it. So we'll take it over to Stanley to see what he thinks.
I like this bracket. I like seeing the Rockets in the finals, actually, because Dwight Howard is just a hungry player. He had a really disappointing season with the the Lakers last year, and now he's with the Rockets. James Harden, of course. The Rockets were an 8 seed last year, and they improved by 4 spots, so that's always a good thing. I like Tanner's bracket with the Rockets in the finals. And then everyone's kind of passing up on the Raptors. I think the Raptors are going to kind of make a presence in the playoffs this year, especially with DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry, who's in my mind, one of the most underrated point guards in the league. And so that's all I got for right now.
Okay, I'm here with my predictions then. I'm just going to... some success, because if you look up the matchups, the specific matchups, we've got Al Jefferson on the Bobcats, like an All-Star this year. He probably was deserving of being the All-Star. He won a Player of the Month, and I feel like the Heat have nobody to stop Al Jefferson in this series. So I still feel like the Bobcats, even though they are notoriously bad, I still feel like they can take that game to take that series to even maybe Game 6 or Game 7. I also do really like the Wizards team this year, but I just feel like the Bulls and their stingy defense is going to be enough for the Wizards, because I feel like their shot selection is going to kind of come down to hinder their success in this playoffs. Also, people are overlooking this Hawks team because the Pacers down the stretch have been really shaky, as we've known, and also Paul Millsap has been stepping his game up lately, and Jeff Teague has played really well too. So I don't know if George Hill's going to be able to match up with him on defense. I do really like this Nets team this year. I also like the Raptors, but I think that the Raptors with Jonas Valanciunas, I don't know if he's going to be able to match up with Kevin Garnett. Also, the Nets have a very good rookie, Mason Plumlee. This year's had an excellent year. Probably the best series, though, I'm looking at these two right here for this first round. Make sure to watch all those games. The Warriors are obviously exciting always with Stephen Curry and their three-point shooting. These two teams hate each other, too. So make sure to definitely watch this one, because this is going to be playoff basketball at its best. I know, Stanley, you want to wrap up your thoughts on what you think of?
My prediction, Stephen Curry goes for 60 points. The Warriors win the finals.
There you go.
And that's all we have. Thanks for tuning in.
Cold drink chilling in my right hand, watching you sleep in the evening light, resting up for a long